Cashamaniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Hey folks, welcome to episode 378 of the GeoGearHeads. I am Chris of the Northwest. We are missing a Daryl W4. I haven't put out an APB yet, but I'm thinking about it. But while we're doing that, I thought we'd bring in a land monkey to cover up for a Daryl W4. And maybe nobody would notice. Wait, that might not be the right way to think about this. Land monkey, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, buddy. Glad to be here with you. It's so fun to podcast with you. I think most of the listeners probably know that you and I have a different podcast that we do actually this evening, later than this show. And so
every Thursday night, we start around 8:30 and we record at 9 o'clock.
There you go. So yeah, it's cool. It's fun to hang out with you a little extra this week. I like to think of myself as a substitute Daryl when I'm on this show. Even when Daryl's on the show, I like to think of myself as a substitute Daryl.
Well, that's good. Hey, we have GSM times 2 going, wait, did I tune into the wrong show? No, you didn't. This is GeoGearHeads number 378, and we're going to talk about caching with kids tonight. And Land Monkey, you've gone off on some strange tangents with that. I'm going to have to work hard to keep you on track tonight.
Well, yes, usually in our show, it's me keeping everybody else on track. And quite often when I've been on GeoGearHeads, it's me trying to derail the show because it's my opportunity to actually derail things. So it's fun.
It is kind of fun to be on a different show and have a different responsibility, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no responsibilities on this show, which is the best.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Highly irresponsible when I'm on this show.
Oh, well, tonight, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about caching with kids, some of the adventures, some of the challenges when caching with children. If you want to join us and we encourage your stories, use the hashtag kids in the chat to tell us your story or stories, because you could have multiple kids. You could have one kid with a whole bunch of stories, or you could have a whole bunch of kids with one story.
Those are tall kids if they're a story. What's
about
that?
12 feet.
8 feet? No, 12 feet. So
yeah. You know, most of you know I work in a school, and I've walked through the high school hallways now, and I'm looking up to both boys and girls wondering, why are they making kids so big these days?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I don't know why they make them bigger.
Oh, sorry, not 12 feet, 10 feet.
10 feet. There you go. I don't know Imperial, so.
That's about 3.1 meters.
Exactly. Good job, by the way.
Oh, wait, I wasn't supposed to know that. It's like 800,000 meters.
Too late. You've tipped your hat now. The cat's out of the bag.
Steroids in the food is the reason they're tall. I don't know if it's steroids or we've reached a new plateau in nutrition that, we're providing good nutrition to our kids and allowing the physical bodies to reach a new physical plateau.
Well, we had our kids sleep in gravity boots. That's why ours are tall.
Oh, that would work.
Yeah.
Yeah. That explains her really long necks too.
And they were super smart in the morning because all the blood would be in their head. So they do really well in school.
And by the end of the day?
The end of the day, they're tired and they're sleepy. So we just hang them upside down again and they're good to go in the next morning.
So you basically treated your children like bats.
No, my children are bats. All children are bats.
They're a little batty.
Little blood-sucking little... Anyway.
Wow. Okay. Let's move on. That got derailed quickly.
Yeah. Hey. So tonight we are going to talk about some of the adventures and misadventures and challenges of caching with kids. As Chris said, use hashtag kids in the chat and tell us your stories. So we've already got Cashosaurus in there who said, caches with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. The 1-year-old signs all the logs. Really? That's a pretty smart 1-year-old if they're signing the logs. That's impressive. And the bigger ones get her art. Well done. All right. So there you go.
That's impressive because as an adult male, I don't know if I can spell the word Cashosaurus. And if a 1-year-old can, well, then
That's why I said I'm
They've
pretty
got me
impressed.
beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think for the purpose of the discussion, you've got so I'm going to preface all of this by when Chris asked me if I could come on the show and what the topic was, and then I started going off on my tangents. He said, "Okay, I'm going to write a bunch of show notes because you're getting out of control."
Yeah.
So,
Started off. So are you talking about using children as geocaching containers? No,
how about swag? Yeah.
no, no, that's not the point here. I mean, because you've left a child at a geocache doesn't mean the child is swag.
Yeah. Maybe don't leave your kids at the geocache site.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
I don't know.
You leave your GPS, you've left your phone, keys,
If
maybe
you
a coat,
if you leave your kids
child. It
there,
is
maybe you're a little preoccupied at that point.
exactly. You've got the baby carrier. You just left it behind. Boy, it's so much easier coming back than going to it. And I don't know why.
Bushwhack in, no
Yeah.
child out. Uh,
No. Well, for the purpose of this discussion,
Yes, sir.
and this discussion will have purpose, I've divided children's ages into 4 groups.
Okay.
Okay. Just general. And, of course, when you divide anything into groups, there's always outliers and things don't fit cleanly. But we're talking about infants, toddlers, and preschoolers, the school age children, and then the most challenging, the preteen or teenager.
All right. So we're kind of cutting it off at like what, 16 to 18, somewhere in there. That's
18, I consider them no longer a teen. Well, they're still a teenager, but they're no longer a child.
no, probably not a contributing member of society either. So
Yeah,
that,
that stops at about 12.
yeah. All right. So,
At least in my house. Now, we're going to talk about some equipment you need to bring with these various age groups, some of the challenges, some of the opportunities. And you're going to see a lot of crossover in the equipment between the age groups. In fact, most of these items are needed for adults as well. So when you go outside, be prepared. If you've listened to Caching in the Northwest, Land Monkey, Wits End, and I always talk about bringing the 10 essentials. Now, maybe it's 12 because the 10 essentials is one of the items.
there you go.
Right, the 3 T's.
The 3 T's. Yeah. So we'll have to educate the GeoGearhead listeners about the 3 T's. And maybe we'll just touch on that before we get into it, because I think it is relevant to caching with kids, and actually super relevant to if you're taking kids out on the trails and going caching. So you broke them into age groups, but I think there's also different considerations whether you are going caching, urban caching,
Mm.
or out in the woods caching. There is going to be different considerations of what you can and can't do with the kids. And so all that said, I brought it. Well, you brought up, and I'm reinforcing the idea of the 3 T's. So GeoGearhead listeners, let us introduce you to the 3 T's. The 3 T's are now my brain just goes blank. The 3 T's are trip plan. Number one, the first T is trip plan. Have a trip plan, which means tell somebody where you're going and when you're going to be back. This is the most essential concept of what a trip plan is. You don't need to detail out every step and have a whole huge document. If you have the capability of doing that, great. But tell somebody where you're going and when you expect to be back.
Now, I mean, the most simple, it could be a sticky note on the refrigerator. It could be a text message. Hey, I'm going out to, XYZ cache. Just let somebody know. Now, if again, Land Monkey, I apologize for interrupting, but yeah, if you can put out a whole document of here's my trip plan down to the minute, fabulous. Most people can't do that, but let people know where you are.
Yeah. So there you go. Gearheads trip plan. Number two is train, which means whatever equipment you're going to bring, whatever activities you're going to do, make sure you understand what's involved in doing that. Do whatever basics you need to do to learn how to do those things. If you're going kayaking, know how to use the kayak. If you're going to go on a long hike, understand how to use the various equipment you're going to bring with you, which leads us into the third T, which is take the essentials. Now, we always used to say take the 10 essentials, but the number varies based on what your adventure is going to be and what the time of year is and what the conditions are. So,
Mhm.
understand what the essentials are for the adventure you're going on, know how to use them, and tell somebody where you're going and when you'll be back. That's the 3 T's. That's the key to safe caching.
There you go. So
Now I've been really serious for a long time, so I think
So
I
you're
used
going
it
to
all
cut
up.
it up. Okay. So there you go. Take the essentials, tell someone, and trip plan. No,
Yep.
I missed one, didn't I?
No, that's it. You
Oh,
got it,
okay.
buddy. That's the 3 T's.
Yeah. Um, I have to learn the 3 T's.
Yeah.
I had the
So
10 essentials down. Now I've got to relearn.
it's
Uh,
all right. I was gonna say, sorry, I'm gonna jump in now.
please.
Rolling back to the topic of um, caching with kids, and you had broken up the 4 groups. So, we're talking about like infants and toddlers, really little kids. Let's start with that. Now, of course, my kids are adults now, but so I wasn't geocaching with my kids, but at least not when they were that young, when they were infants and toddlers. But we were very avid backpackers when our kids were born, and we just kept going. What we did is we adjusted our equipment, we adjusted some of our trips a little bit, but pretty much our kids just adopted and learned our lifestyle. And so the thing is, you don't have to completely change. So if you love geocaching and now you've had a kid, you don't have to give up geocaching. You can keep going. You just need to do a little more planning.
Yep. Now, if you have a infant, a newborn, you may not want to consider at that point starting a geocaching streak, but, you know, if you're hardcore enough, you can still do it.
So I have a friend up here who I swear her baby was maybe 2 days old when when the kid went on its first geocache exploration with mom. Um, she's amazing. She's a fantastic geocacher. Well, her and her husband are. They've got 2 kids now, and the everybody in the caching community knows their kids because their kids have grown up with the geocaching community, which is kind of cool.
Mhm.
We've got a reasonably tight geocaching community up here, and that's really neat. And it's I think it's fantastic that way. But yeah, there's something. So yeah, just to the topic of newborns, I'd say maybe not, but I've seen it happen. And it just all depends on you as an individual and what you're comfortable with too, right? Like you may not be comfortable doing that.
Andrew, oh, I'm hearing myself suddenly. Andrew in the chat says, now this is, pre-kids, actually. I have a friend who went on an FTF hunt when she was in active labor. So at that point, the kids are just going to, wherever they are, maybe they're there for the FTF in person. I don't know, but
Oh, that's
wow,
awesome.
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I like GSMX2 says, hey, you're not going to sleep anyway. You may as well go geocaching.
I'm going
That's
to sleep for
awesome.
long periods of time. So yeah, you mentioned that some hardcore geocachers have taken their newborn baby out to a cache, as soon as they're released from the hospital. It could be 1 day, 2 day.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's never too early to create that free geocaching account for your kids. They may want it later on in life, and you may as well get some of those extra finds that, they're there with you.
Yep.
And
They were there.
apparently a 1-year-old can spell Cachesaurus.
There you go. Why not?
But
Right.
with newborns
Yeah.
and geocaching, now it depends on what you're doing, but there's some gear involved there.
Of
Of course,
course.
we're looking at strollers. There's some off-road strollers with large wheels.
Dude, have strollers ever changed since you and I had infants?
Yes.
It's a totally different world now. Like when we had our little ones, we didn't bother trying to use strollers for going hiking or on trails or anything because they weren't designed for it. But
They had a
now,
wheel about the size of a quarter.
yeah, but now you get these strollers that are like they've got bicycle wheels on them. You can take them on any trail and they're like three-wheeled units. And yeah, I mean, parents these days, oh my goodness, they've got it made. Not like when we were parents.
No, now, so when we were parents, the strollers that your children have for their baby dolls? That's pretty much what we had for our children. They
Pretty
weren't much different. They weren't much stronger.
But because of that, and this is where we segue into the next item on your list. Because of that, what we did is we used the backpacks,
Mhm.
the kid carriers. So we had a system from Kelty, who I think still makes the same set of products, just probably advanced now. But it was a really great kid carrier, and when they were really young, we had like a kangaroo pack on the front where the
Mhm.
the baby would just be all tucked in, all nicely taken care of there. You could put the jacket around them, keep them warm. So, when they're really small that way, once they can hold their head up themselves, then they can go in the back. Um, and the Kelty system we had was amazing because it actually had all these little, like a diaper bag that slid underneath the folding legs. And just the whole thing was a really well put together unit. So you had everything you needed.
Nice. Nice. So yeah, you need front packs, backpacks, however it works. You need that fully stocked diaper bag because it doesn't matter whether you're, taking the child to the drive-through bank with you. You need a fully stocked diaper bag whenever you leave the house
Pretty
because
much.
yeah, including, change of clothes or 3 or 4. Uh
That's just
enough
part of being
diapers
a
to
parent.
change an army.
Yeah.
Wet wipes. Yeah. Anyway, a proper car seat is another big thing. Make sure you get one that's sized for the child. Now, again, car seats have changed a lot in the last
Yeah.
several years, shall we say, last 25 years. It used to be there was just one size car seat. You just threw the kid in there, pack some pillows around him, and hope for the best. Um, maybe that's a little extreme. But
We're a
now
little flippant, but we're not far off. I'll just
you're
put it
not
that way.
far off. I'll tell you a story. I've got a scar on my eyebrow. It's this one. I was in the back of my parents' station wagon, and they were rear-ended, and I hit my head. Do you remember the big hinges that used to be on the inside on the lid of the station wagon?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
They're like you know, inch and a half round or inch and a half square piping. Yeah, I hit my head on that, and I've had a scar ever since. So, I mean, there was no car seat when I was growing up,
No.
but
I
now,
mean, yeah.
I mean, they've got these convertible car seats that work as forward facing, rear facing, front seat, back seat,
Yep.
booster seat. I don't know what they all do.
Absolutely.
Um,
I mean, it's all changed, right? Which is good. Obviously, safety is the huge concern, and kids these days will benefit from increased safety and the awareness and education for the parents. So, I guess it really comes back to the 3 T's, right? Like you one of your T's, one of the essentials you're going to take is a proper car seat and these items that we're going through. These are going to be the essentials. And the training is learn how to use them properly, learn
yeah,
how to and not just the textbook learn how to use it. So not just, okay, I know how to put the car seat in the car. I know how to put the baby in the car seat so that it's safe. I know how to put the baby out of the car seat into the stroller, or you have one of the detachable car seats that clips into the stroller or whatever it is. There's that. But the other part of that I would suggest with the training piece is learn how to optimize that system. You're a geocacher. You're going to want a little bit of speed while not removing the safety factor for your kid. So, practice, get a system down. Have the second diaper bag sitting beside the front door for those FTF runs with your infant.
yeah, exactly. Why not? In the chat, GSM times 2 says the one I had as a kid went over the back of the seat and the steering wheel and a horn.
Awesome.
Nice. So some of the challenges
Mm,
are going to be weather,
yeah.
right? Taking a child out in hot, cold, you know, even if it's not hot, direct sunlight on their newborn baby skin, it's not good.
No, you need to be, yeah, you do. I mean, I've been a little bit flippant about it, but you need to, and I think anybody who's a parent knows this, but you need to
Mhm.
be cautious about the changes in the weather. You need to plan for it. You need to bring, as you said, bring enough clothes to clothe an army, because weather changes and you need to keep your kids safe.
And babies change.
And babies get changed a
Babies
lot.
need change. Yeah. Uh, that's another one, being able to change a diaper out in the wild, right? You're going to need that mat to put down, or otherwise you're going to get pine needles up in the diaper, and that's not comfortable for anyone.
No, that was one of the things that I liked about that Kelty system we had, is that it also had a padded, um, call it a change mat or whatever you want to call it, but that was all part of the whole system that it just pulls out, drop it down on the ground anywhere, and you got your little squirming worm on top of it, and you do what you need to do.
Yeah. And speaking of changing while you're out in the wild, don't forget to CETO, or should I say CEDO.
Yeah,
It's cash in, diaper out,
please. Yeah, nobody wants to find that.
because those things don't decompose ever.
There you go. And Cashosaurus says they run 2 diaper bags. So there you go.
There you go.
They got a system. Clearly, they have a system going on.
Yep. And also, you need to work with your child's schedule for feeding,
Yes.
for napping. I realize an FTF run may not be as scheduled, but you know what? Take the opportunity to talk to your reviewer and say, hey,
Just
the
gonna say
nap time is, can you release caches during that time? I'll buy you a coffee.
I was just gonna say that. That's funny that you went there. I was just saying, well, you can't really adjust the kids' nap time, but you can try and train your reviewer. So that's funny. Uh,
Okay. So that covers infants. Let's move into the next age group, which is the toddlers, preschool. They're up and about, they're moving on their own.
so they got their own 2 legs underneath them now,
Hmm.
most of the time.
Yep.
They like
So,
to they like to eat stuff they find.
well, that's one of the things I put. Let's get, you need to bring
Okay,
plenty of water, plenty of food, you know, your basic first aid kit for bug bites and scrapes,
that's a good point.
right? You need a first aid kit anyway,
Should
but
have one anyways, but then
yeah.
this goes good point, Chris. This goes to what we were talking about, taking the essentials and the training piece. You might have a first aid kit that you've carried with you since you started hiking as a teenager, and it's got all the stuff you need. But now what you need to carry has changed. So get into your first aid kit, open it up, take a look through there. Do you have the things in there that you would need if there was a problem for your little kid? Maybe you need smaller band-aids. Um, you need different products in there, Ozanol, and for kids and things like that. Children's aspirins. There's
Mhm.
things you should think about for that as well.
Of course, changes of clothes.
Mm,
Those, make sure they're
that
the right
never ends.
size. They haven't been in the diaper bag for 2 years.
I think you need to bring changes of clothes with you when you go caching too.
Man. Yeah, you throw that burp cloth across, and boy, if they miss, that smell stays with you all day.
Yeah, no, Chris, I was talking about you personally. When
Oh,
you go caching, you need to bring a change of clothes with you
well,
often.
usually just pants, but
Yeah.
that's a
Okay.
different story.
All right.
Um, well, you mentioned they put things in their mouth. So
Oh yeah.
I tossed in cleanliness. That could be wipes, that could be hand sanitizers. Now, I don't want you to go overboard and douse the child in Purell every 15 minutes, right? But at this age, a lot of things they find go right into the mouth.
Oh yeah.
So you want to keep those hands relatively clean. I know there's a whole controversy over, hand sanitizers are actually hurting our kids because of but there are times for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or if you don't want to go down the route of using Purell or hand sanitizer on your kid, which I definitely understand because we didn't. But what we did is we just had the wipes, or a wet cloth, and you wipe them down, wipe down the face, wipe down the hands every once in a while. If they get really dirty, if they are crawling around while you're signing the log, pick them up, wipe their hands down. All right, they're good for a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah.
keep
Well,
an eye on them
see,
for sure.
now we can have pressurized camelbacks. We could actually hose the child off.
We could.
Yeah. Ah, good times. Remember that time I hosed my child off? Anyway. Now,
So what are some of the challenges
well,
with this
some of
age
the
group?
challenges is timing.
Right?
I remember taking, going out and wanting to do 3 or 4 caches in a park. And we pulled up, and do you know what was right in front of us?
The
A
swing set.
playground,
Yeah.
swing set, climbing structure. And it's like, come on, let's go find this. Well, can we? Okay, let's go find one cache first, and then you can play. I never got the other 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say about particularly this age group, and it definitely carries on into the school age group, but particularly this age group, the toddlers. Um, the thing you're gonna find is they definitely don't have the stamina an adult does, obviously, but they just don't have the attention span for it, right?
Mhm.
Like it's boring. Geocaching is interesting for the first cache, maybe 2 if you're lucky. But that's not what they wanna do. They wanna explore, they wanna climb a tree, they wanna see this, they wanna see that, they wanna play on the swing set.
Mhm.
So, mentally prepare yourself as the parent to say, "I'm going to get a cache today." If I get more than 1, that is a bonus for me. but I am getting my child outside. I'm taking my child to new interesting areas where they're going to have the opportunity to play and discover, etc. So you got to make it about that, because otherwise you're going to set yourself false expectations and just get frustrated, really.
Yeah. And then it's no fun for either one of you.
No.
Yeah. Once one of you become frustrated, that's done.
That pretty much shoots the whole night. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, shall we move on to the next age?
Let's do
I
that.
mean, our kids are growing up so fast.
I know.
It feels like we just started this and they're already school age.
Yeah, not even like 20 minutes ago. Yeah.
I know. And you turn around 3 times and they're going to be a teenager. So I'm looking at, say, 5 to 11, right? Just
Okay.
not quite a preteen,
Yep.
a tweenager. What are they calling it? Anyway,
Something
uh,
like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Tweens.
So like other activities you do with your kids, make sure that the level of this activity of geocaching is age appropriate. We talked a little bit about that. Your geocaching addiction doesn't really have to set in until you start finding the geocaches. And if you don't find any at all, your child may become frustrated or disinterested, or if you push them too far, do too many in a day, they'll become frustrated and disinterested. And that also works for wives, I found out.
I think it depends on your wife. Your mileage may vary.
There you go. This is a great age to begin to teach your children, your kids, about nature studies.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
That's
some
a
of the
good point.
things like cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, not just looking at red birds.
Hey, get them to do your earth caches for you.
Well, maybe.
At least introduce them. I mean, that was a little tongue in cheek, but an earth cache is actually a great way. Now, not every earth cache, because some of them are quite technical and you're going to lose them right away. But
Mhm.
some of the simpler, maybe the lower difficulty earth caches, or even if you just take them to the earth cache site, you do the hard questions, but get them to actually look at the whatever it is you're looking at. If it's
Right.
strata in a sedimentary
The
cliffside,
geology of it.
yeah, get them to actually start to think about the geology a little bit.
Mhm. Simple things like following directions, following an arrow, right? Maybe there's a little problem solving come in because the arrow is pointing to the left, but the path is going to the right. Yeah.
Now what?
And geography, hey, we've crossed the river. That means we're in a different county or a different town.
I know a lot of adults who could use that kind of training.
Oh, you better believe it.
It's cool though. Those are really good pieces of advice. I hadn't thought about that, Chris, but you're absolutely right. This is a great age to be taking your kids out geocaching and use it as teaching and learning opportunities. That's
Mhm.
that's awesome. Good thinking.
Not just directions and maps and things like that, but also nature.
Hmm.
You
What
know,
kind
take
of tree is this? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Take one of a book along or two of uh maybe animals you'll come across, or bugs or birds you may see.
Birds you'll hear.
Oh, there you go, or birds you'll hear. Mhm. So that's kind of goes into the equipment. Bring some nature books. Maybe you read them at home and you go, you know what? We read the story of the giving tree and that was a maple tree. Let's go out and find a maple tree. Okay.
Very cool idea.
Yeah.
Yep. I like that.
Um,
Yeah, you can make it a game within the game, right? So it's not the only game you're playing isn't necessarily geocaching, but there's the game of, like you said, it's like punch buggy, but much less violent. Let's find a maple tree because, as you said, this is what we read about in the book. Or as you walk down the path, there's a fir and there's a cedar. Well, now you can start to educate your child so they're smarter than most geocachers and they know the difference between a fir and a cedar. So
and have them teach me.
yeah.
So some of the things you
Yes.
bring along, guess what I'm going to say?
I don't know. What are you going to say?
Plenty of water, extra snacks, change of clothes, first aid kit.
Ah,
That hasn't changed.
no, it
Bug
hasn't.
repellent,
Yeah.
maybe some sort of entertainment for the car ride there.
Ooh, good
Could be a
idea.
movie, the tablets, or maybe reading that nature book.
It's a great idea. And,
Good shoes.
I was going to say, actually, on the nature books and the books about nature, there are plenty of books about nature that are targeted towards this age group. So you don't have to get your Audubon field guide and hand it to the kid and say, "Here you go, learn up. We're going to be there in half an hour. You got half an hour to learn this." But they can have kid-oriented nature books, very colorful, um, but it gives them the opportunity to start to see the different things, and then they can try and identify, and they can even take the book out on the trail as long as it's not raining, and they
Exactly.
can make that correlation and identify between what's in the picture in the book and what they're seeing in real life.
Yeah. I have seen now, I'm not shopping for children's books much anymore, but at nature centers, they have some great books there designed for these school age kids, with nice pictures and easy to read words that I look at this and go, wow, this is a fantastic book.
Yeah,
Now, maybe you can buy it on Amazon cheaper. I'm not telling you to do that, but I'm just saying those options are out there.
absolutely.
Good shoes because they're going to be walking a little more, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe ibuprofen for you because they may walk into the cache and you have to carry them out.
Well, that's pretty much guaranteed that
Yeah.
they're not going to walk back out.
Um, Also some swag because now you're going to see to the point where you're going to go in and you're going to find an ammo can and maybe it's not the park they want to spend some time at. They want to spend some time going through each item in that ammo can
Yeah.
and pulling it out and looking at it. And one of the things I said here is, kids can make little trinkets and homemade artwork to leave in a cache. Something like a friendship bracelet
Okay. Yeah.
is far better than a McDonald's toy because they put their own effort into it. They made it.
So I think that's a great idea. If I was to give some advice around that, if you're going to do that, put them in little Ziploc bags or something, because as soon as
And
it
I
gets
would,
wet, it
yeah,
becomes garbage.
and I would put a note in there. Hey, this was made by, you know,
Hmm.
7-year-old Zoe.
Or put your this was made by, and then put your geocaching account so
There
that
you
if
go.
somebody wants to send you a message with a picture, maybe they picked it up and maybe
Mhm.
their kid picked it up and put it on, and they can send a picture to you on the instant messaging on geocaching. That would be cool.
Yeah. So I think that's a great idea is to leave something handmade that the child can do, and it gives them something to do maybe in the car ride there. You probably don't want the big, 8,000 bead set in your back seat while you're trying to drive to a FTF,
I
but,
guarantee it won't be there when you get there. Yeah.
oh, don't worry, they'll sit in the wheel well the whole time and get put the beads back together. Um, Another good thing to do is Ceto, right? Carry Ceto bags with you
Yeah.
so that as you're cashing in, you show the value of the game board of taking care of nature.
Yeah. Again, though, I mean, remembering the age that we're talking about out here, you also want to have a certain amount of caution with that,
Hmm,
um, because there are things you may find on trails that you don't want your kids picking up.
that's
So,
true.
so I think it's a good idea to ingrain that behavior. So if you see like candy bar wrappers or whatever, and you have a glove on so you can pick it up and put it into the Ceto bag and teach the kid to do that. But then I think there's also, you need to be vigilant about
Mhm.
what they're Cetoing, because you don't want to have to explain that that's not a balloon. Yeah.
But it looks just like one. Can
Yeah.
I inflate it? No, walk away.
So yeah, that's where I'm going with that, because
You didn't
it
need to.
happens.
Okay. Remember when we were kids and the worst thing we'd find is a tin can
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
beer bottle? Oh, a beer bottle.
Ooh, a
Oh,
beer bottle.
yeah.
That's cool, man. Somebody drank a beer out here in the woods. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, different time, my friend.
It's a GSM times 2 says that's a good education opportunity. Well, maybe not the balloon thing.
Yeah, maybe not. I'm just trying to make sure Daryl doesn't invite me back, that's all.
No, you good job. Hey,
Oh,
let
thanks.
me tell you a quick story about carrying a child back.
Okay.
So, I think it was Wits End and my daughter went out. We did a little hike and she wanted to come along and she did fine. Of course, she got tired on the way back. And we went out and I'll tell you, we didn't plan ahead because it got dark on the way back.
Oh, you were benighted.
and we were benighted. And it wasn't that we were, 6 miles deep in the woods. We were within a city in a park, but on the trail back, it got a little dark, and we were using our cell phones for light. It was, we were not prepared. And I put my daughter on my shoulders and was walking out, and I nearly took her head off on a low branch.
Oh,
I saw it coming and I ducked down, but I didn't duck far enough, and she dunk.
yeah, you got to be careful.
Oh, Dad! Oh, sorry. So
Whoops.
you be careful. I think we mentioned some of the challenges, and some of these challenges are universal. Energy is an issue. Well, maybe you have to carry the child back because their little legs just don't have it in them anymore.
Nope.
So keep the trips short. And I like to use the term modular, right?
And
So we'll go out and get this cache. Oh, you still have some energy. Okay, let's go do this one.
oh, okay.
Right? So we can, if you don't have the energy, you're tired, it started to rain, that's okay. We can go do that cache another day.
Good idea. I like that.
And maybe there's ice cream involved in between the two.
Reward system.
Yes. Rewards. Yes, we did a cache near a Costco, and that's my children had just learned that there's ice cream inside of Costco that you can go buy. Can we go get an ice cream? Okay, we can go get an ice cream. But I've got to do another one after this. Again, attention span.
Yep.
And maybe you don't want to do some of those difficult, lots of searching at ground zero types of caches.
No, you don't. Yeah, agreed.
Because, you can quickly become, boring. And like, come on, can we go play at the park? Can we go get the ice cream? Can we? Yeah. Okay, I won't be able to find this one today.
There you go.
And if you're in an area where the kids can explore and play, say maybe a beach.
Yeah.
While you're looking, you've got to keep an eye on them. That's,
yes.
that's almost even more dangerous because now you're distracted by looking for the cache, not paying attention to what your kids are doing. So
I think that's what leashes are for, but yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah, I'm anti-leash on a kid.
They
should be
that was
voice
totally
trained.
tongue in cheek. I never used leashes on my kid, but I've seen them, and it just always made me kind of chuckle. I mean, I get it. I totally get it, but it was a choice for us that we didn't go that route. And
Right.
it just, I don't know. I think it's kind of funny to joke about.
Another challenge, maybe micro caches
Ooh,
or
why?
nanos,
Why are those a challenge?
because the kids want that swag. That swag in a large cache is the most fun ever.
Yeah.
I remember my daughter spending it felt like to me half an hour going through all the items in a cache. I'm like, come on, just pick one and let's go.
Yeah. GSM times 2 threw out there in the chat. Someone suggested that when introducing children to geocaching, go find the geocache first, then bring them to find the geocache. I think that's a great idea. You can play the hot and cold game. So then even if it is a micro, now you're playing the hot and cold game with them because you've found the micro, and now they'll be more entertaining. So yes, they'll be disappointed there's no swag inside it, but you can say, okay, it's a micro, so they know, oh, okay, it's a small one, it's not a big one. But now you got to find it, and you're cold. Oh, you're getting warmer. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. It's a good way to do that. So good suggestion.
Great suggestion. Yeah. And that's going to come up here in the next grouping, but also at this point, encourage them. So this happens amongst adults in a group. Somebody finds it, and they'll walk away and what's the phrase?
Sorry, was I supposed to be listening to you?
Yes.
Oh.
When you find a cache in a group and you're not
that huckle buckle or something.
hucklebuckle, there you go.
Yes.
Hokey pokey, whatever you call it. Yeah.
Hey, stupid, I found it.
Yeah, I know where it is. And then, whoa. So you're not going there and grabbing it and saying, here, this is.
Yeah.
You can also do
makes
that.
it fun when you do that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
And so you do that. Whatever phrase you choose to use, Probably I would avoid doing "Hey, stupid, I found it" when you're doing it with your kids. But whatever phrase you choose to use, you visually spot it, you make the comment, and now it's like, oh, now the game's on, right? So it's some like Pavlovian training of your children.
I've heard people feeding their dogs out of ammo cans so that when they're out in the wild, the dogs will naturally smell out the ammo cans.
Yeah, let me tell you from personal experience, that does not work. What that does is that trains you to feed your dog when you find an ammo can, is what
Hmm.
trains your dog to expect you to feed it whenever you find an ammo can.
And, dogs are another good option when going out with kids. Sometimes having the pet is a good distraction for the child and allows you to search just a little bit longer.
Yeah, the flip side of that, back to my leash comment earlier, the flip side of that is now you have two things to control,
Right.
or if you're Cashosaurus, three things to control. So, yeah.
And maybe the dog takes the child for a run.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
Or drag, taking your kid
Yeah.
for a drag. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. So some really good tips, Chris. I like some of that advice. I like some of the advice coming from the chat as well. You guys are great. So there's some cool things to think. Do we want to switch into our last
Last one, and
category?
we'll try to keep it short. The preteen teenager. Here's the short of it. Just don't take them. At this age, just lock them in a room, slide food under the door, and wait a couple of years.
Can we put them on an island somewhere and pick them up in a
That'd
few
be
years?
good. Yeah, then you wouldn't. Yeah. Okay, maybe that's a little extreme. Well, not really.
Not really. No.
Now, in addition to the pure fun factor of geocaching, it's also a great family activity. We've talked about that. You're all getting outdoors together, possibly areas you've never been before, right? Yeah. Finding a park in your town that you've never been. And you're hiking around, working together as a team.
Yeah, so that's a good point, because there's definitely some team building skills that can come into it. You can let them have a turn at playing the huckle-buckle. So when they spot it, they can call out the huckle-buckle and see how dumb their parents are.
There you go. Geocaching can also teach respect, as you
Speaking of how dumb their parents are.
That's true.
But no, you're right. So get in there. You're absolutely, I'm being cheeky, but you've got a good point.
That you must abide by certain ethics, such as hiding the cache as well as you found it, right? Leaving something behind if you take something. Yep. These are rules that we just take for granted in the geocaching community. But you know what? This is common sense rules also out in society.
Yeah.
If you borrow something, return it in good or better condition.
Yes.
As good or better. Yeah.
I was going to throw in there. So through their maturing through this well, it's not really maturing at any point in this spectrum we've been talking about, but through their aging in these four categories we've been talking about, one of the things, and most people, I will acknowledge, most people cache by phone these days. And here's the thing: when they're in their tweens and their teenage years, they're going to be on the phone all the time anyways. So if as they're younger and you start to show them the navigational skills and all those kinds of things that they might need to know, and you're letting them see the phone, maybe even using it a little bit. When they're in this stage, if they do enjoy doing the caching, let them take the lead. Let them do the navigation. Let them use the phone to find the cache and to follow the trails and to identify, looking at the terrain map and going, oh, wow, we don't want to go over that way. Oh, why is that, Junior? Well, because Dad, those train lines are really close to each other. So you taught me that means that it's a steep hill, right? So hopefully that kind of stuff sinks in.
And that blue means there's water.
That blue means there's water. Yeah, blub blub blub. So I think that gives the opportunity for them to be on the phone, but doing something where they're still interacting with the rest of the family's activity, as opposed to on the phone and Facebook chat with their friends about what so-and-so wore to school today. Can you even believe that they would do that?
I know. Totes. Incredible. I just read today that the average teenager touches their phones over 5,000 times a day.
Wow. I can believe that 100%.
Okay. Whatever. You can also, geocaching provides an opportunity to increase certain skills like puzzle caches increase puzzle solving skills, right?
Yeah.
Earth caches increase geology skills.
Yeah, they do.
You, you got map reading.
Yes.
You know what? Take the opportunity and create geocaches with your kids. Now, they could be a traditional geocache and you learn to put a fern on a ammo can and spray paint it and realize, oh, that leaves a pattern,
Hmm.
for camouflage.
Oh, I see
Um,
what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
but what about gadget caches? Because then you're programming and you may be surprised at what your kids can teach you.
Well, not even that. So you don't even have to go to the extent of like bounce electronic gadget caches, but even building some simple birdhouse physical gadget caches is an activity you can do with your kids. You can go to Home Depot and they have the little classes where you take your kids and you build a
A gadget
birdhouse.
cache. I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, you build all kinds of different things, and then you can take it home and say, "Okay, well, we built this birdhouse, but you know what? If we take the bottom off and now, and then open it up to them, say, how could we make this? How could we make this a bit of a challenge for somebody? What would you do? And then you can start like working in a three-dimensional space with them and building things. Yeah, I think there's a lot of fun you could do that. So do it
Do it. Go do it.
now.
Do it.
Are you
Again,
still
some of
here?
the equipment you're going to bring, guess what? Plenty of water, extra snacks, change of clothes. And you may have to get into some hiking gear, some weather gear for your teenagers.
Yeah.
They're not going to fit in your clothes.
And likelihood is you're going to be going for longer hikes at this point.
Yep. They probably already have a smartphone. And again, the
Unless
challenge
they're
is,
my kids who weren't allowed to have smartphones.
you know, I've seen second graders with better smartphones than I have. Yeah, we're
Anyway,
not going there.
yes.
Um,
More than likely, they will have their own phones or they will have use of a common phone.
right. There you go. Some of the challenges, again, attention span.
Yeah.
Teenagers typically don't have one. Schedules. You've got to run to soccer. You've got to run to swim practice. You,
Absolutely.
you got to take 3 kids over here and 2 there. And yeah. Um, as we mentioned earlier, I think GSM times 2 said, let the child find the cache, not you.
Yeah.
Right. You go see, oh, there it is. You go find it. I'll stand here.
Absolutely.
Personal trackables, geocoins may be of interest to your child. And that's a good interest or good entrance into personal responsibility, the value of, work. If you go out and do a geocoin challenge,
Oh,
I
okay.
put this work in and here, I got this out of it.
I see where you're going with that. I was looking at it from a slightly different perspective. And my daughter loved the idea of trackables. And when she used to geocache with us, she had her own trackable that she had bought with her own money. It was Charlie the Manta Ray. And still loves sharks and rays. So we had found that we could get, and I think we got it from Lookout Lisa or somebody, but Cash Advance, and had this little manta ray trackable, one of those tags, and she put it out into the world, and she really enjoyed watching it travel. And I think it's still out there. So now she's an adult, and every once in a while she'll say, "Hey, I saw Charlie moved." Right. So it's kind of neat, right? It is this thing that you can now again, this is also the opportunity to teach your kid sometimes life doesn't go the way you want it to when your trackable disappears. So
Right.
that's the other thing to be aware of with that idea. But I think it's a great idea, Chris. And like I said, from personal experience, I can say that it worked really well with our daughter.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Lookout Lisa, and I had forgotten that when my daughter was a teenager, actually at one of the early block parties,
Mhm.
she helped Lookout Lisa for a couple of hours in her booth.
That's cool.
So,
Well, I remember at one of the block parties, my daughter helped us out at our booth.
yeah, right. So, you can pawn them off as help to others.
Slave
Wait,
labor.
yeah, there you go. Another item to consider when bringing a teenager along is maybe bring another teenager along.
Yes, we've done that with our kids when we've gone caching with them. Let them bring a friend along. It makes life so much easier.
Yeah. And that's an opportunity. Maybe they will both bond over geocaching and it's something that gets them out and about and not just on the phones, on the Facebooks, talking about,
what Chris wore to school yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you what I wore to school yesterday. No,
but it's a good point.
Believe it.
It's a good point. And I think the bottom line to all of this is what you were just touching on, which is geocaching is, and this is part of the crux of the whole advertising that HQ does. Geocaching is a great way to get families engaged in the outdoors, to get outside and have fun and explore. And that's what it's all about at the heart of it. So use that as an opportunity to get your kids out exploring, having fun. And the key piece of the having fun is to manage your own expectations about what that day is going to be like.
Exactly. I don't think kids get out enough anymore. But that's my personal opinion. And my kids, usually sit in the house. So who am I to say? But Land Monkey, thank you for joining us.
It's been fun. Thank you.
This is a good topic. If you've got any questions, send them to GeoGearHeads at cacheamaniacs.com. Let Daryl know everything that he missed this week. And go ahead and hit up Daryl on the Twitters at DarylW4. Let him know he's been missed. But folks, we want to make sure you check the Cacheamaniacs website at cacheamaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. You know what? We love hearing from our listeners. So leave us feedback by emailing GeoGearHeads at cacheamaniacs.com or through the many channels of social media. Your support helps keep the Cacheamaniac shows coming, so please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cacheamaniac shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Umfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. The show's copyright 2019 by Daryl Wattenberg, all rights reserved.
Cache with the Cacheamaniac.